Hello, everybody. Welcome back to part 3, episode 23, and then part 3 of the Book of Judges. Now, I wanted to clear up something from last week, okay? When I said that the Amorites were from the west and the Ammonites were from the east, that was like oversimplifying it. Let me explain a little bit more. The Amorites are a group of Canaanites, okay? They're a group of Canaanites, close to the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. And then the Ammonites are on the east side of the Jordan, and they are descended from Lot, Abraham's nephew. So, in a way, the Ammonites are actually related to the Israelites. The Amorites are not, but the Ammonites are related to the Israelites via Abraham. So just wanted to make that important distinction clear. Not trying to mislead anybody. Like I said, I'm not a scholar, and I really don't like to focus on bloodlines. I think, I don't like to focus on bloodlines. I'm trying to focus on like the theology and the philosophy behind this all. That's what I try to focus on. But it's hard to completely avoid it because, a lot of this theology does revolve around bloodlines. So, I do got to talk about it sometimes. But anyways, let's get back into our Book of Judges here. Now, where we left off, we were just about to start talking about Samson. We were just about to get into the birth of Samson. Now, I don't know if I made this clear in my last couple of episodes. See, judges are not like judges in a courtroom necessarily. These were kind of more or less like their leaders. Like I said, Israel was desperate for a leader. You know what I mean? They wanted a leader. They wanted stability. And this was during a time where the whole world was kind of unstable. The whole world was freaking out, falling apart. It was the time of the collapse of the Bronze Age. So I can understand why they felt they needed a leader, and that's how they felt. Yahweh didn't really want them to have a leader. He kind of saw it as like an affront to him. He's like, I alone am your leader. Even though he kind of gaslights them, isn't always there for them. So, it's not really enough for them. It's not really enough. So they would periodically have like a leader. The leader would keep them on the straight and narrow path, on Yahweh's path. And then when that leader would die and they would like fall back into chaos and disorder, Yahweh would, enslave them, sell them to other groups of people until another judge would rise up and get revenge for them and then lead them again. And this was like a cycle that went on for quite a long time. So we've already been through quite a few judges at this point. Now we're at the point where Samson is the new, he's not the judge yet necessarily, but let's just get into the story. Okay, we are in Judges chapter 13 now. This is the birth of Samson. And I'm sorry, my cat always does this. It's like a sensor goes off in her head every time I come here to record. She stands outside of the door and starts whining. I don't get it. She was asleep just a few minutes ago. But okay. Judges 13. Again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. Again, this is after the judge Abdon has died. Okay. Okay. And the Lord delivered them into the hands of the Philistines for 40 years. A certain man of Zorah named Manoah from the clan of the Danites, okay, this is Danite clan, had a wife who was childless, unable to give birth. And what happens to these barren women a lot of the times in the Bible? They get visited by one of Yahweh's lieutenants, aka an angel of the Lord. Okay, we're in verse 3. An angel of the Lord appeared to her and said, "You're barren and childless." No shit. "But you are going to become pregnant and give birth to a son. Now see to it that you drink no wine or other fermented drink. and that you do not eat anything unclean. Pause. This is extremely interesting considering, like, back then, according to the history we have, they're not supposed to know that alcohol is bad for you when you're pregnant. They're not supposed to know that, right? Aren't they supposed to be way dumber than all of us today? I'm being sarcastic in case you couldn't tell. I'm being really sarcastic. Obviously, they were way more educated and smart than we are. Okay. So, like I said, she's not supposed to eat anything unclean or drink any wine. And he continues, you will become pregnant and have a son whose head is never to be touched by a razor, because the boy is to be a Nazarite, dedicated to God from the womb. We talked about these very briefly when we were in, what was it? I think it was Leviticus, possibly Deuteronomy, where they talked about this, the Nazarite vow. They're like not supposed to like cut their hair. There's a lot of other rules that they have. They're not supposed to let a razor touch their hair. They're supposed to let their hair grow completely out. Okay. He will take the lead in delivering Israelites from the hands of the Philistines. Okay. So it was already predetermined that he was going to be the future judge, the one who saves them all from the Philistines. Okay. Then the woman went to her husband and told him, a man of God came to me. He looked like an angel of God. Very awesome. I'd like to note that the definition of awesome back then typically meant scary. I mean, yeah, it meant awesome, like wow, but it also meant kind of scary too. Okay. I didn't ask him where he came from, but he didn't tell me his name, Oh my God, then how do you know he was an angel of God? Jesus. Okay. But he said to me, you will become pregnant and have a son. Yeah, that's not suspicious at all. Now then, drink no wine or other fermented drink, and do not eat anything unclean, because he will be a Nazarite until the day of his death. My cat's freaking out there, I'm sorry. Then Manoah prayed to the Lord. Pardon your servant, Lord. I beg you to let the man of God you sent to us come again, to teach us how to bring up this boy who is to be born. God heard Manoah. I like to call bullshit on that. I think he just wanted to make sure that his wife wasn't fooling around on him. That's what I think. Okay. But an angel of God came again to the woman while she was out in the field. But he came to her when her husband wasn't with her. He came to her in the field in private. The woman hurried to tell her husband, he's here! He's here! So she really, wanted to prove to her husband that this really happened. Okay. He's the man who appeared to me the other day. So Manoah got up and followed his wife out to the field. Wait, Paul, why is she working in the field and not Manoah? I'd like to know that. What was Manoah doing in the house, doing nothing? Anyway. Are you the man who talked to my wife? I am, he said. See, I told you that's what he was worried about. That's the first thing he said. You're not the one who talks to my wife. You're the man who talked to my wife. Okay. I see you, Manoah. I see you. And then Manoah asked him, when your words are fulfilled, what is to be the rule that governs the boy's life and work? And then the angel of the Lord answered, your wife must do all I have told her. She must not eat anything that comes from the grapevine, nor drink any wine or other fermented drink, nor eat anything unclean. She must do everything I have commanded her. Okay. Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, we would like you to stay until we prepare a young goat for you. But the angel of the Lord replied, even though you detain me, Jesus, I will not eat any of your food. But if you prepare a burnt offering, offer it to the Lord. Manoah did not realize that this was the angel of the Lord. What? So he's still thinking that this is just some random guy. Right. He still thinks it's just some random guy who's talking to his wife and he's not upset. Nah, he had to have some suspicion that he wasn't fully human. I don't buy it. Because, if he actually thought this was just an average man, he would have a problem, right? He would have a problem with this strange man talking to his wife. when he's not around. Anyway, okay. Then Manoah inquired of the angel of the Lord, "What is your name, so that we may honor you when your word comes true?" Again, being cagey and cryptic, "Why do you ask my name? It is beyond understanding." That's interesting. Then Manoah took a goat together with the grain offering and, did their thing. And then they sacrificed it to Yahweh. And then the Lord did an amazing thing while Manoah and his wife watched. As the flame blazed up from the altar toward heaven, the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame. Seeing this, Manoah and his wife fell with their faces to the ground. When the angel of the Lord did not show himself again to Manoah and his wife, Manoah realized that this was an angel of the Lord. And he freaked out. "We're doomed to die," he said to his wife. "We've seen God, and we're not allowed to do that." But his wife answered, "If the Lord had meant to kill us, he would not have accepted a burnt offering, a grain offering, nor shown us all these things, nor now told us this." So, it was like, fair enough. But yeah, he was freaking out at the idea that he might have broken a rule or something. Then the woman gave birth to Samson. Okay, and this is interesting. We're in Judges 13:24, verses 24 and 25. The woman gave birth to a boy, named him Samson. He grew, and the Lord blessed him. And the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him while he was in Dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. Okay, so I don't know what that means. Anytime that they say that, like, the Spirit of the Lord came over him, or the Lord, like, stirred with it, I don't know what they're talking about. Yeah, I don't know what they're talking about. I'd like to know, though. I'd really like to know. Now, Samson's got an interesting story. Because remember, up until this point, anytime any, like, Israelite or whatever, like, married someone, like, who was a Philistine or a Canaanite or anyone who wasn't an Israelite, there was always problems, there was always punishment, there was always, like, death. So, it was, like, ingrained in their heads, like, not to, at this point, I'm sure, not to interbreed with the women of all the other nations. That's what I'm thinking, at least. But Samson seems to be a little different. Maybe he's above the rules a little bit more than everybody else. You know what I mean? Because that's like his first marriage. And here we get into that in Judges 14, okay? Samson goes to a town called Timnah and saw a young Philistine woman. Okay, and when he told his dad about it, he wasn't at first pleased about it. He's like, I don't know, Samson. Are you sure you can't find someone to marry within our tribe? You know what I mean? Please, like, Yahweh really doesn't like it when we interbreed with these surrounding peoples and nations. He really doesn't like it. And Samson was like, you don't understand. This is the one. I want her, Father. You know what I mean? I want her. So, and it says something interesting in verse 4, Judges 14, verse 4. His parents did not know this was from the Lord, who was seeking an occasion to confront the Philistines. For at that time, they were ruling over Israel. And I'd like to say, and this is just my opinion, I feel like this is a very manipulative, mean, cold thing to do. You know what I mean? Why does Yahweh need to look for an excuse to confront the Philistines, right? Why does he need a reason? Why not just, if Samson is his next judge, why not just get him to confront the Philistines? It almost sounds if to me that it's not that he's looking for a reason to confront the Philistines. It almost looks to me that he wants the Israelites to have a reason to confront the Philistines. You know what I mean? And I could be wrong. That's purely speculation. But that doesn't sound right to me. It's like, what do you mean that Well, I mean, it says he wants to do it because the Philistines are ruling over Israel at this time. Isn't that reason enough? Like, why does Yahweh need Samson specifically to marry or want to marry a Philistine woman to doesn't sound right. This is one of those stories you're going to see as we go further on, if you don't know the story already, that it sounds like there's something missing in this story. You know what I mean? It sounds like there's a little context missing, but that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. Okay. So we get back to it. So Samson goes down to Timnah with his parents. Now, during their journey, there's a lion that they encounter during this journey, during their path. And the Spirit of the Lord, here we are, verse 6. The Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him, so that he tore the lion apart with his bare hands, as he might have torn a young goat. What? Like, what? But he told neither his father or mother what he had done. Then he went down and talked with the woman, and he liked her. Wait, what? But he was with them. How did they not know? I'm confused about that. It doesn't say specifically. Maybe they weren't with him at that exact moment, but they went with him on the journey, but they did not see him tear apart this young lion with his bare hands, which is crazy to me. They act like, and then they say as if he would have a goat, as if it's easy to do that either. To tear apart a goat with your bare hand. Like, what kind of savagery is that? What kind of savagery is that? As if he was a young goat. Like, was it normal for Samson to tear apart young goats with his bare hand? Like, what are you talking about? What is this author talking about even? Like, what? This sounds so primitive and savage. Like, Jesus Christ. Okay, let me keep reading. No, I mean, no offense to Jesus, but wow. So he goes down, visits the lady he likes. Then he goes back. And then he goes back to visit her again. This is his second journey to see his lady friend, the Philistine. Okay, this is his second journey. Now, as he's going back the second time, the lion's carcass is still there. And he looks at it, and it looks like a swarm of bees has set up shop inside the lion. And then he's like, oh, well, what a great snack. Because, it's kind of gross. But, like, he reaches into the body of the lion where the beehive is and takes, like, a honeycomb and starts eating some honey. And then when he found his parents, I guess his parents were here, too, with him on this journey. Again, they were with him again on the second journey, but like we said before, they didn't know about this incident with the lion. So they didn't know where he got this honey from. That's kind of mean, Samson. You should have told them that you got it out of a rotting corpse of a lion. But I don't know. That's just me. I would want to know it. I probably would still eat it. I don't know. Maybe not. It depends. If it looked clean and all, I would eat it. But, like, I would have still liked to have known. I guess I can't say I know for sure if I would eat it or not. Maybe not. And I don't know. But, like, I don't know. That seems kind of mean, Samson. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't think I would eat it. Because, like, listen, if it's a dead body of a lion, like, there's obviously, like, some, like, bugs and maggots other than bees inside that lion. So, ew, Samson. That was mean. Okay. And he didn't tell them. He didn't tell them that the honey came from the lion's dead body. He didn't tell them. Okay. Now, we're still in Judges 14. This is verse 10. Now his father went down to see the woman, and there Samson held a feast, as was customary for young men. When the people saw him, they chose 30 men to be his companions. Okay, so I guess this was like some kind of custom that they didn't necessarily like, so they had to like choose 30 men to go eat with Samson. I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe they didn't like him because he was Israeli. Hell if I know why they didn't, and I don't even know if they didn't like him. I shouldn't say that. That's not fair. I don't even know for sure they didn't like him. I just know that they had to assign 30 men to go eat his feast. So, I mean, obviously it's not something people were jumping at the seam to do. But anywho, so they had to, go down and humor Samson. And then while they were all eating and whatnot, Samson decides to tell them a riddle. He decides a fun game. You know what I mean? Riddles are fun. Here we are, verse 12. Let me tell you a riddle, Samson said to him. If you can give me the answer within the 7 days of the feast. Oh, Jesus. No wonder they had to assign people there because they had to feast for 7 days. Jesus. Okay. If you give me the answer within the 7 days of the feast, I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes. Wow. But if you can't tell me the answer, you have to give me 30 garments and 30 sets of clothes. And they're like, tell us your riddle. Let us hear it. I don't know if they sound like that. I'm just making that noise. Okay. Okay, and then Samson replies, this is the riddle. Okay, this is the riddle. Out of the eater, something to eat. Out of the strong, something sweet. That is so totally unfair. Like, they wouldn't even, that is not something you would like figure out. And that to me seems a little shady, Samson. You're basically cornering them into a position with the riddle they won't know the answer to. And then you're going to get stuff out of it. This is the woman's people. This is her family that you're treating like this. So I think it's a little, kind of messed up a little bit. But they did agree to it. But that was before they heard this messed up riddle. Okay? This was kind of like a messed up, hard to answer riddle. But anyways, like I say, this was an impossible riddle unless you were there and knew what he was talking about with the bees and the lion. You wouldn't know what the hell he was talking about. Like, what? So it did. They took them a while, and they still couldn't figure out. After 3 days, they couldn't come up with an answer. Then on the 4th day, they tried to get Samson's new wife, their sister or cousin or however they were related to this woman. But these were her people. They're like, come on, you got to convince your husband into explaining this riddle. They even threatened her. We're going to burn you and your father's house to death. Because I guess that was easier than them finding 30 linens and garments for Samson. I mean, I'm sure that like 30 linens, that's a lot, I would think. I mean, because they had to hand make all their clothes and whatnot like that. So that was a lot back then to have to give up. So I'm sure that they were, willing to go down without a fight. So they threaten his new wife. Now, to be fair, instead of trying to trick Samson, she should have just explained to him that they were threatening her. To be fair. But she chose the other route. She chose to be kind of dishonest about it. And I'm not trying to judge her for it. I mean, maybe Samson was a mean guy. He kind of sounds like a, I don't want to say mean, but I mean, come on, what kind of person just tears apart a goat with his bare hands? So, like, I don't know how nice he was. Maybe this seemed like the safer option to trick Samson than her family. To trick Samson, and instead of telling him the truth that her family threatened her, maybe he wouldn't even care. You know what I mean? Who knows? Okay. I mean, I don't know. That doesn't really, I don't know. I don't know why. But she chose to try to trick him. So Samson's wife threw herself on him, sobbing, "You hate me. You really don't love me. You've given my people a riddle, but you haven't told me the answer." Then Samson, well, I haven't even told my dad or mom, so why would I tell you? And then she, threw a fit and cried the whole 7 days of the feast. So this got to him, I guess. You know what I mean? Kind of ruining the vibes, the fun partying vibes. So, all right, fine. I'll tell you. Because she wouldn't leave him alone about it. And then, of course, she betrays him and then tells her people. So, before sunset on the 7th day of this feast, the men of the town said to him, okay, what's sweeter than honey? What's stronger than a lion? And then Samson was pissed. He's like, oh God, this was kind of mean. Okay, this is what he says about his wife. Okay, his new wife. If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle. Ooh, burn. Burn. Then we get into another interesting verse. Once again, they use the phrasing, once again, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. I have no idea what that means. I'm starting to think that this is like demonic possession of some kind. I don't know. But he went down to the town of Ashkelon, killed 30 men, and then took their clothes to bring back to her family. I mean, he obviously hadn't planned on them winning and figuring out this riddle, so he didn't have 30 linens to give them. I am sure it wasn't a commodity a lot of people had. But to be fair, Samson, you're the one who made the terms. You're the one who made the terms. You're the one who cheated and gave them an impossible riddle to solve. And then you were dumb enough to tell, like, the girl they were related to. So, I mean, you really brought this upon yourself, guy. You really did. You didn't have to do this riddle at all. That's crazy. But he did. And this is the consequence. But he's an entitled little brat. Forgive me for saying. And rather than just, like admitting that he cheated and knew he gave them a riddle he couldn't solve and say, I don't have the clothes to give you, he goes and murders 30 innocent men. Yeah, real great guy. Real great guy. Oh my God. Let me read this passage because he's not done. He's not done. Okay, then once he got their clothes, he was burning with anger, returned to his father's home with his wife, his new wife, but he didn't like her anymore. Now that she'd betrayed him that way and made him look foolish, and he had to murder 30 men, he gave her to one of his companions. He just gave her away. Poor woman, like, she really didn't stand a chance. Like, she had the men of her childhood pressing her to betray her new man, and maybe she chose badly, but it's not like she had a really good choice to begin with. Okay. Anywho. Well, Samson's not done. Samson's not done because, he's like a little baby. He's got a fragile ego, and he can't stand just to take a loss, to take an L. He wants to get revenge. Okay. We're now in Judges 15. Later on, at the time of the wheat harvest, Samson took a young goat and went to visit his wife, who belonged to his companion. Now, he said, I'm going to my wife's room. But her father would not let him go in. Oh, finally someone's defending her. Someone's finally defending her. And her father was like, wait a minute. I was so sure you hated her, he said, that I gave her to your companion. Isn't her younger sister more attractive? Take her instead. Samson said to them, this time I have a right to get even with the Philistines. I will really harm them. What? So he gives her away. This is why I don't like Samson that much. Because he keeps doing these things to himself. Okay? He does a riddle that he knows is impossible to solve, trying to cheat her and her family out of resources. He loses. It backfires. Then he gives his wife away to someone, one of these companions that joined him at dinner, one of her relatives, it sounds like, because he was so mad. Then he goes to try to sleep with her after he already dishonored her and gave her away. Can you believe the entitlement of this guy? The absolute entitlement that Samson has, that he thinks he has the right to go back and to sleep with her after all of that. After all of that. And her father, probably trying to defend what little bit of honor his family and his daughter have left. He's like, no, wait a minute. What about her sister? What about her sister, okay? You can, marry her. But Samson didn't want to have none of it. He wanted to use this as an excuse to get revenge over something he did. What is... Okay, now we're about to talk about something a little cruel that he did, okay? This is the revenge he gets on these Philistines, okay? He rounds up This is how you know, like, he's just, like, not stable in the head. He goes and he rounds up 300... Sorry, let me get my cat. Sorry, guys, hold on. That cat is so goofy. Okay, back to it. So, this is how unstable this guy is and how, like, unhinged the way he's acting is. He goes and he rounds up 300 foxes. I know, right? 300, I don't even know what he does with the hundreds of them while he catches them. I don't know how he does this. But he ties them all tail to tail in pairs, okay? In pairs. So in twos. And then he fastens a torch. I don't know how he accomplished this. He must have had some kind of help. Then he fastens a torch to every single pair of tails. And then he lights the torches on fire and lets them loose in the Philistines' grain field. So, like, to destroy all their crops and all their grain and even, like, their vineyards, their olive groves, like, all of this stuff they burn up. Simply because the girl's father wouldn't let him take advantage of her anymore. I mean, that's what... Listen, I'm reading from the Bible here. Ain't this the word? Ain't this the word that's always true? You can't, like, no, you're not allowed to say or suggest that there might have been something else going on, a different agenda. Nope. This is the word of God. This is only love, don't you know? God, what an entitled, arrogant... Yeah, I don't... It's funny, they miss all these parts of the story when they tell you the story of, like, Samson. We haven't even gotten to Delilah yet. This is all before Delilah. This is a different girl. So, like, here we go. Let's continue. Okay. We're in Judges 15, now we're in verse 6. When the Philistines asked, who did this? They were told, Samson, the Timnite's son-in-law, because his wife was given to his companion. So the Philistines went up and burned her and her father to death. Now, after all that Samson did to them, he was actually mad and upset about it. Of course, I don't know. Like I said, I'm thinking that this was just part of him and Yahweh's plan to begin with. But, verse 7, Samson says to them, since you've acted like this, I swear that I won't stop till I get my revenge on you. They're probably like, what? But we thought we did what you wanted. We killed the girl. But, they obviously weren't going to appease Samson no matter what they did. So he attacked them and he slaughtered most of them. And then he went down to stay in a cave that was close by. And then the Philistines went up, verse 9, Philistines went up and camped in Judah, spreading out near Lehi. The people of Judah asked, why have you come to fight us? And they respond, the Philistines respond, we have come to take Samson prisoner, they said, to do to him as he did to us. Okay. They're mad, obviously. I mean, like, he burnt their crops and their livelihood. I mean, can you blame them? All simply because he couldn't get his way? Anyway, then 3,000 men from Judah went down to where Samson was staying in the cave. He said, don't you realize that the Philistines are rulers over us? What have you done? You've only made them even more mad and more crazy and more unhinged. Samson, being the narcissist he is, he's like, I only did to them what they did to me. Even though he started this all. He started it. It's crazy. And because of one woman. like, oh my gosh. He's like unhinged. He's absolutely unhinged. Okay. Well, they responded and were like, listen, we're going to have to hand you over to them. Because you seem to have forgotten that they still rule over us and can subjugate us to even worse crap because of your actions. And then Samson says to them in response, he says, swear to me that you won't kill me yourselves. And they said, we agree. We're not going to kill you. We're only going to tie you up and hand you over to them. We won't kill you. So they bound him with 2 ropes and then let him up from the rock. And then as he approached Lehi, the Philistines came toward him shouting, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him. The ropes on his arm became like charred flax, and the bindings dropped from his hands. Finding a fresh jawbone of donkey, he grabbed it and struck down 1,000 men. Okay, so another situation where, quote, the Spirit of the Lord comes upon him. I'm really curious what this means. Do they, suit him up with, a robot armor? What is the Spirit of the Lord that suddenly makes him able to kill 1,000 men? I would like to know. I'm sorry, guys. My cat is just, I don't know what her deal is today. Okay, I just gave her some treats, maybe. That'll keep her occupied for a while. Okay. So then, after he strikes down these 1,000 men, when he was done, he obviously was very thirsty from all that exercise he did. You know, it's hard work slaughtering 1,000 men with a donkey's jawbone. It's a lot of work. So being the entitled brat he is, he suddenly starts crying and whining to Yahweh. He's like, I'm thirsty. I kid you not. He's like, I'm thirsty and I'm going to die of thirst. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? So then Yahweh opens up the hollow place in Lahai and water comes out of it. I don't know if he just opens a hole in the ground and some water comes. I don't know. But Samson drank it. His strength returned and he was revived. So the spring was called En-Hakor, which means caller's spring. And from the time this was written, it was still there, but, okay. So Samson became the judge of Israel for 20 years in the days of the Philistines. Okay, now we get to Samson and Delilah. I don't know if this had to have happened after all of that stuff where he killed 1,000 Philistines and all this stuff. Interestingly, Samson goes to Gaza. Yes, Gaza, where Palestine is. Modern day Gaza. Yes, it's a very old city. Where he saw a prostitute. He went in to spend the night with her. The people of Gaza were told, Samson is here. So they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the city gate. They made no move during the night, saying, at dawn we're going to kill him. At dawn we're going to kill him. But Samson didn't stay the whole night. You know what I mean? He got what he wanted from the prostitute and he left in the middle of the night. And he got up and took hold of the doors of the city gate together with the 2 posts and tore them loose, bar and all. He lifted them to his shoulders and carried them to the top of the hill that faces Hebron. So, I'm not sure why he did that. Maybe he knew they were going to kill him. I don't know. But, Sometime later, we're in Judges 16, verse 4. Sometime later, he fell in love with a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. Now, I'm not sure if she's a Philistine. I think she is. Pretty sure. Okay. The rulers of the Philistines went to her and said, see if you can lure him into showing you the secret of how strong he is, and so we know how to overpower him and subdue him. Each one of us will give you 1,100 shekels of silver. And she agrees. She agrees. I mean, listen, like I said, once again, Samson really has no one to blame but himself. I mean, you pretty much tore their whole city gates down. You killed 1,000 of their men. You tried to defile that woman. And these are all the Philistines. He basically has been tormenting them. So I can't really say I blame them for wanting to find out how to get rid of this guy. This guy is an absolute menace. He has to go. We have to get rid of him. He's killing our people, destroying our gates and walls. We got to figure out how to get rid of him. So, she goes to Samson. We're in verse 16, verse 6. And she asks him, tell me the secret of your strength and how you can be tied up and subdued. I don't know. I have a feeling she didn't word it exactly like that. But I could be wrong. Why would you word it that way? How can you be subdued? Tell me your weakness so I know how to subdue you. Why would you word it that way? Anyway, but Samson answered her, if anyone ties me with 7 fresh bowstrings that have not been dried, I'll become as weak as any man. Well, he was lying to her, obviously. He was lying to her. So we're in verse 8. And the rulers of the Philistines brought her 7 fresh bowstrings that had not been dried, and she tied him with them. With men hidden in the room, she called, oh, Samson, the Philistines are here. Oh, no. But obviously he had lied to her, so he easily snapped the bowstrings off, and the secret of his strength was still not discovered. Then Delilah says to him, oh, you've made a fool of me. You lied to me. Come now, tell me how you really can be tied. Like, this doesn't even make sense. This doesn't even make sense. Like, how does he think he got... He had to have known that she was messing with him. She must have really had some game on him. I don't know. He must have really liked this woman. And he's like, okay. If anyone ties me securely with new ropes that have never been used, I'll become as weak as any other man. So then she takes new ropes and ties him up with that. And then again, Samson, the Philistines are here. And then obviously he breaks those ropes. And then Delilah once again, she's like, all this time you've been making a fool of me and lying to me. Tell me how you can be tied right now. Like, this doesn't, like I said, this makes no sense. Because he obviously has to know that she's the one tying him up. And she's literally getting mad at him because she can't subdue him. Like, this is a wild story. I feel like there's a lot of context missing to this story. I could be wrong. And then he tells her again another lie. If you weave the 7 braids of my head into the fabric on the loom and tighten it with the pin, I'll become as weak as any other man. So then, of course, this is what she does when he's asleep and tightens them with the pin. And then once again, she's like, the Philistines are here. Oh, no. And then he woke up from his sleep and pulled up the pin and the loom with the fabric. She's like, oh my gosh, how can you tell me that? How can you say that you love me when you won't even tell me how I can subdue you? You don't really love me. I kid you not. This is all in the Bible. I kid you not. With such nagging. Oh my God, yeah. Nagging. She nagged him and nagged him. So then he finally tells her the truth. Verse 17. So he told her everything. No razor has ever been used on my head, he said, because I have been a Nazarite dedicated to God from my mother's womb. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man. So then Delilah goes to sends them word that he tells her the truth, and to try one more time. They're going to try one more time, see if he's just full of shit or not. So they try again, and yeah, let's just read it. Verse 19. We're still in Judges 16, verses 19. Okay, after putting him to sleep on her lap. That's weird. I don't know how she did that. She called for someone to shave off the 7 braids of his hair, and so began to subdue him. Dang. And his strength left him. Then she called, Samson, the Philistines are here. And he woke up from his sleep and thought, I'll go out as before and shake myself free. But he did not know that the Lord had left him. Then the Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and took him down to Gaza. Ooh, God, I don't even want to think about that. That sounds terrible. Binding him with bronze shackles, they set him to grinding grain in the prison. But the hair on his head began to grow again after it had been shaved. So, they put him to work in prison, but his hair did begin to slowly grow back. Okay, now the rulers of the Philistines assembled to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon, their God, and to celebrate, saying, "Our God has delivered Samson, our enemy, into our hands." When the people saw him, they praised their God, saying, "Our God has delivered our enemy into our hands, the one who laid waste our land and multiplied our slain." Yeah, let's not forget everything. I mean, as awful as what they just did to Samson is, let's not forget that he did, like, destroy all their crops, kill thousands of them, basically show them zero respect as human beings, and kept tormenting them. So maybe they really felt like they had no choice but to do this to Samson. I mean, like, he wasn't going to stop tormenting them. He'd come down, sleep with their women, destroy their crops and their stuff. Anytime, like, someone made him look dumb, which apparently wasn't hard to do, he would, like, react like a menace, like an absolute menace. Okay, so then we know the story here. While they were all in high spirits, they wanted Samson to come out and entertain them, so they, like, chained him up on the pillars, and so that he could perform for them. I don't know what performing means. Maybe they just laugh at him. I don't know what that performing means. Okay. Okay. We are on verse 26. Okay. Samson said to the servant who held his hand, "Put me where I can feel the pillars that support the temple, so that I may lean against them." Now the temple was crowded with men and women. All the rulers of the Philistines were there, and on the roof there were about 3,000 men and women watching Samson perform. Like I said, I don't know what perform means. Then Samson prayed to the Lord, "Sovereign Lord, remember me. Please, God, strengthen me just one more, and let me with one blow get revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes." Then Samson reached toward the 2 central pillars on which the temple stood, bracing himself against them, his right hand on the one and his left hand on the other. Samson said, "Let me die with the Philistines." Then he pushed with all his might, and down came the temple on all the rulers and the people inside. And thus he killed many more when he died than while he lived. So there were thousands of them there, and he killed them all along with himself, with just pulling down those 2 pillars. Then his brothers and his father's whole family went down to get him. They brought him back and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of Manoah his father, and he had led Israel for 20 years. He obviously, like, why were the rules, like, why did Yahweh let him do that, though? Like, with the Philistine women. Like, that was always a big no-no up until then. Not only was he their judge, like, I don't know. Seems a bit hypocritical. Something about that whole entire story seems off to me. But if it is true, Samson seemed like an unhinged menace to those poor Philistine people. So, I mean, as much as I don't like to think about them gouging out his eyes, I mean, come on, like, they probably felt like it was like life or death at that point. Like, he wasn't going to stop. Anyway. Okay, so we're done with the story of Samson. Now we get into the story of Micah. Okay? Micah's Idols is kind of like the name of the story. Now, it's a really short story. Now, there's a man named Micah, and he basically stole some silver from his mom. He stole 1,100 shekels from her, and she was about to lay a curse on whoever the thief was. Once he heard her doing this, he's like, "Oh, no, it's okay. I'm the one who took it. I'm sorry, Mom." And then she was like, "Oh, bless you, my son. Bless you." And then instead of cursing him, she decided to take the silver, consecrate it to the Lord for her son to make an image overlaid with silver, to give it back to him. So basically, he took the shekels of silver to a silversmith, and they made an idol. He also had a shrine, and he made an ephod with some household gods, and installed one of his sons as his priest. So he must have lived in a rural area, you know what I mean? And in these days, Israel still was under the judges, and I don't know if there was a judge at this point in time, because everyone was just doing what they wanted to do. But yeah, so he had his little idol in his own house and stuff. And then one day, a young Levite from Bethlehem in Judah, who, had been living within the clan of Judah, left that town in search of some other place to stay, and then he came across Micah. And Micah was in the hill country of Ephraim. Like I said, he must have been kind of like in the middle of nowhere. He had his own little shrine, his own little house, his own priest. But a Levite comes along. You know what I mean? And Micah's like, hey, where are you from? And the Levite said, I'm a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah, he said, and I'm looking for a place to stay. And Micah was like, well, if you live with me and be my father and priest, I'll give you 10 shekels of silver a year for your clothes and your food. And the Levite thought it was like pretty agreeable. He's a Levite. He's supposed to be doing those kinds of things anyway. So he agreed. So then Micah installs the Levite and then to become his priest. And he says, now I know that the Lord will be good to me since I have a Levite for a priest. You know, Micah thought he was doing well. Well, then, hold on a minute. These Danites, they were coming through Ephraim where Micah was, and they come across this Levite, and they ask him, like, what are you doing? Who brought you here, and what are you doing here? And he told them, he says, Micah has hired me as a priest. So then they kind of think amongst themselves for a minute, and they're like, well, wait a minute. Since you're a Levite, can you ask God if our journey is going to be successful? And then he does. And he says, go in peace. Your journey has the Lord's approval. I'm sure whatever it was, you know. Anyways, so then the 5 men left, and they came to Laish, where they saw that the people were living in safety, like the Sidonians, at peace and secure. And since their land lacked nothing, they were prosperous. Also, they lived a long way from the Sidonians and had no relationship with anyone else. Now, you know, they were living, like I said, they were living in peace amongst these Sidonians, and in like true tricksters fashion, they go back to the rest of their Danite friends, and they said, come on, listen, these people are ripe for exploitation. We can come, take over their land, they won't suspect a thing. Let's go attack them now. And on their journey to go back to the Sidonians to attack them, they come across Micah's land again. And then the 5 guys who had spotted out the Levite and asked him for advice, they're like, hey, guess what? You know that there's a guy here who's got like an idol and an ephod and all this stuff, and even a Levite. So what you waiting for? You know what to do. You know what to do. So the 5 men brought their army, their 600 armed men, right behind them. The 600 armed men stood at the entrance of Micah's gate, while the 5 men went in and they just started taking the idol and the sacred items. They just started taking Micah's things. And then the Levite who was living there with him came in and said, what are y'all doing? And they were like, you be quiet. Don't say a word. In fact, come with us and be our father and priest. Isn't it better that you serve a tribe and a clan in Israel as a priest rather than just one man? The priest was pleased. Of course he was. So he helped them. And then they left. And then they put their children, their livestock in possession in front of them. And they turned away and left. And then when they had gotten some distance from Micah's house, the men who lived near Micah were called together, and they surrounded the Danites. Micah was like, oh, no. So he got all of his buddies, and they surrounded the Danites. And as they shouted after them, the Danites turned and said to Micah, what's the matter with you that you called out your men to fight? And he replied, you took the gods, you took my stuff and my priest. Like, what's wrong with you? I don't have nothing else. And the Danites answered, don't argue with us, or some of the men may get angry and attack you, and your family will lose their lives. So Micah had really no choice. He was outnumbered. He had to let them go. They basically just robbed. After his priest even helped them and everything, it didn't matter. Because listen. This particular group of Danites obviously are not necessarily good people, right? Not only they took advantage of Micah's hospitality and his Levite priest, they went to the Sidonians who were unsuspecting and hospitable. They were going to take advantage of them too by taking their land, and then they robbed Micah. These are people who have no scruples, and think it's absolutely disgusting. I think it's disgusting. I'm allowed to think it, right? Well, just wait. It gets way even more disgusting. Anyways, ugh. Okay, let me finish this up. Okay, we're in Judges 18 and verse 27. Then they took what Micah had made and his priest and went to Laish. I'm sorry, not the Sidonians, Laish. I don't know. Maybe they are the Sidonians. I don't know. Or this is the group of people that were at peace and were hospitable. Okay. And then they went there against a people at peace and secure. They attacked them with the sword and burned down their city. There was no one to rescue them because they lived a long way from Sidon. Okay, so these aren't the Sidonians. This is a different city. But they lived a long way from Sidon and had no relationship with anyone else. The city was in a valley near Beth Rahab. So they were unsuspecting. They were peaceful, living in peace. And the Danites, after they had been taken in by these people, they go back and get their army and they burn down and sack their city. It's just let's continue. The Danites rebuilt the city. Of course they did. They rebuilt the city that they burnt down and settled there. They named it Dan, after their ancestor Dan, who was born to Israel, though the city used to be called Laish. There the Danites set up for themselves the idol, and Jonathan, son of Gershom, the son of Moses, and his sons were priests for the tribe of Dan until the time of the captivity of the land, which comes later. They continued to use the idol Micah had made all the time the house of God was in Shiloh. So yeah, it's like I said, this is a pattern. Yeah, and this is at Yahweh's demands. They're supposed to be continuing this genocide and this conquest throughout all of this stuff. So yeah, I hate to say this, but we wondered why in ancient times they were so hated. Why they were so hated all the time. Maybe this is why. Maybe it was because they were constantly raping, pillaging, destroying, stealing. I mean, I don't know. That's just, who knows. Okay. Now we get to something really dark, okay? We get to a really dark story. This is not for the faint of heart. Trigger warning. Okay. This is during a time where they don't have a king. We're still in the time of the judges. There is a Levite who lived in a remote area. Not the same Levite as Micah. This is a different Levite. He lived in a remote area in the hill country of Ephraim. And he had a concubine. He took a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah. That's very important. He took her from her family. Now, it's interesting. This is how they word it. Judges 19, verse 2. But she was unfaithful to him. She left him. This is how she was unfaithful, okay? This is how she was unfaithful. She left him and went back to her parents' home in Bethlehem, Judah, after she had been there 4 months. That's how, not that she went after another man or anything. She wanted to go back home to her parents. I mean, I don't know. That doesn't say specifically, but I can guess this was probably a very young girl, because they love to do this to girls who are very, very young. She was probably very young, missed her parents. I mean, she was there for 4 months. Obviously, he didn't treat her great, or she wouldn't have, ran away. I mean, she risked disgrace by doing that. But anyway, but he followed her to Bethlehem to convince her to come back. And he had with him his servant and 2 donkeys. And the parents and her took him in, and her father gladly welcomed him. His father-in-law, the woman's father, prevailed on him to stay. So he remained there for 3 days, eating, drinking, and sleeping there. And it sounds like her parents missed her too. They didn't want her to leave just yet. On the 4th day, they got up early and he prepared to leave. But the woman's father said to his son-in-law, refresh yourself with something to eat, then you can go. So the 2 of them sat down to eat and drink together. Afterward, the woman's father said, please stay tonight and enjoy yourself. And when the man got up to go, his father-in-law persuaded him, so he stayed there that night too. On the morning of the 5th day, when he arose to go, the woman's father said, refresh yourself, wait till the afternoon. So the 2 of them stayed a little longer. Then when the man with his concubine and the girl and his servant got up to leave. His father-in-law, the woman's father, said, "Now look, it's almost evening. Spend the night here. The day's nearly over. Stay and enjoy yourself. Early tomorrow morning you can get up and be on your way home." But unwilling to stay another night, the man left with his lady and went toward Jerusalem with his 2 saddled donkeys and his concubine. Okay, I'm going to continue. When they were there near Jerusalem and the day was almost gone, the servant said to his master, "Come, let's stop at this city of the Jebusites and spend the night." His master replied, "No, we won't go into any city whose people are not Israelites." Because remember, the Israelites weren't in Jerusalem. These were Jebusites. They hadn't killed off the Jebusites yet. Okay. So yeah, we won't go into any city whose people are not Israelites. We will go on to Gibeah. He added, "Come on, let's try to reach Gibeah or Ramah and spend the night in one of those places." So they went on, and the sun set as they neared Gibeah in Benjamin. There they stopped to spend the night. They went and sat in the city square, but no one took them in for the night. That evening, an old man from the hill country of Ephraim, who was living in Gibeah, came in from his work the fields. When he looked and saw the traveler in the city square, the old man asked, "Where are you going? Where did you come from?" And then he answered, "We are on our way from Bethlehem in Judah to a remote area in the hill country of Ephraim, where I live. I have been to Bethlehem in Judah, and now I am going to the house of the Lord." House of the Lord? What? Maybe that is where the Ark of the Covenant was at the time. I'm not totally sure. Okay. "No one has taken me in for the night. We have both straw and fodder for our donkeys and bread and wine for ourselves, your servants, me, the woman, and the young man with us. We don't need anything." And he said, the old man tells him, "You are welcome at my house. Let me supply you with whatever you need. Only don't spend the night in the square." He obviously knew that this wasn't a very safe place. So he took them in and fed his donkeys. And after they had washed their feet and had something to eat and drink, and they were enjoying themselves, some people started surrounding the house. And they started pounding on the door. They shouted to the old man who was in the house, "Bring out the man who came to your house so we can have sex with him." Yeah, eerily similar, right, to like the Sodom and Gomorrah story. But this doesn't have the same ending as that, so don't worry. The owner of the house said, "No, my friends, don't be so vile. Since this man is my guest, don't do this outrageous thing, just like what happened to Abraham and Lot." It's uncanny how similar this... Anyway, okay. But it doesn't end the same, like I said. "So don't be so vile. Look, here is my virgin daughter and his concubine. I will bring them out to you, and you can use them. But don't hurt the men. Just beat and rape on our women. That's fine. Just don't hurt us men. Us poor men. Please don't do anything to the men." But the men would not listen to him. So the man took his concubine and set her outside. And they raped her and abused her throughout the night. And at dawn, they finally let her go. They beat her so bad that she literally died at the door. She died at the door. And this is how vile this man is. Okay. Verse 27, Judges 19, verse 27. "When her master got up in the morning and opened the door of the house and stepped out to continue on his way, there lay his concubine, fallen in the doorway of the house with her hands on the threshold. He said to her, 'Get up, let's go.' But there was no answer. Then the man put her on his donkey and set out for home." Now, warning, this gets kind of gruesome. "When he reached home, he took a knife and cut up his concubine limb by limb into 12 parts and sent them into all the areas of Israel. Everyone who saw it was saying to one another, 'Such a thing has never been seen or done, not since the day the Israelites came up out of Egypt. Just imagine. We must do something.'" Wait, what do they mean since the day they come up out of Egypt? When did they cut up someone's body and send it? Anyway, I don't know. And I'm not really sure what this was supposed to prove. Like, why he cut her up into 12 pieces. I'm not really sure what it was supposed to prove. But he did, and sent it to each of the 12 tribes of Israel. To show them what the Benjamites did. And of course, since they don't know how to, like, go after the people who did it, they only know how to, like, compartmentalize a whole entire groups of people. They want to go after all the Benjamites. So then the leaders the elders of Israel decided to have a meeting. They all assembled in Mizpah. Okay, that's where the Ark of the Covenant was at the time. In Mizpah. So they all gathered and they wanted to find out how this awful thing has happened. What awful thing? Her being gang raped all night, or her being cut up into 12 pieces? I don't know what they're referring to exactly, but the Levite, the husband of the murdered woman, said, I and my concubine came to Gibeah in Benjamin to spend the night. During the night, the men of Gibeah came after me and surrounded my house, intending to kill me. And they raped my concubine, and she died. I took my concubine, cut her into pieces, and sent one piece to each region of Israel's inheritance, because they committed this lewd and outrageous act in Israel. Now all you Israelites, speak up and tell me what you have decided to do. All the men rose up together as one, saying, None of us will go home. No, not one of us will return to his house. But now this is what we will do to Gibeah. We will go up against it in the order decided by casting lots. We'll take 10 men out of every 100 from all the tribes of Israel, and 100 from 1,000, and 1,000 from 10,000 to get provisions for the army. Then, when the army arrives at Gibeah in Benjamin, I can give them what they deserve for this outrageous act done in Israel. So the Israelites all got together and united as one against the city. Okay, so then they sent messengers throughout the tribe of Benjamin asking about what about this awful crime that some of these men amongst you have committed. But the Benjamites would not. They wanted the Benjamites to turn over the men who committed this crime, but the Benjamites did not want to comply. They didn't want to comply. But anyways, this whole drama turns into an actual battle. Because since they refused to turn over these men to the Israelites, they all decide to fight the Israelites, all their army. So then it was the Benjamites against the Israelites. And this is kind of mean. And, okay. The Israelites went, I guess, to the Ark of the Covenant, and they asked Yahweh if they should do this. And Yahweh said, yes, go fight them. But they start to lose a lot of people. They start to lose a lot of men. So many men to the point where they are grieving, and they're asking, like, what should we do? What should we do? Now, and this happened about twice, where they would go out and fight the Benjamites. The Benjamites would inflict heavy casualties upon them, and they would retreat. They would ask Yahweh if they should try again, then Yahweh would say yes, and they would go and try again. And then when they did go again, it's the same thing started to happen. Benjamites started kicking their asses and whooping their butt. So they finally, they started inflicting more heavy casualties upon the Israelites. But the Israelites had an ambush set up this time. And, you see, the Lord came and started helping them. Doesn't say how exactly, but, the Lord struck down like at least 25,000 Benjamites. And then the Benjamites, when they saw they were defeated, they started to retreat, henceforth where the ambush was set up to get them. And then the Israelites, let's see. Sorry, let me just read this. Okay. We are in Judges 20, and I'm going to begin reading verse 36. Okay. Then the Benjamites saw that they were beaten. Now the men of Israel had given way before Benjamin, because they relied on the ambush they had set near Gibeah. Those who had been in ambush made a sudden dash into Gibeah, spread out, and put the whole city to the sword. The Israelites had arranged with the ambush that they should send up a great cloud of smoke from the city. Then the Israelites would counterattack. The Benjamites had begun to inflict casualties on the Israelites, about 30, and they said, "We are defeating them as in the first battle." But when the column of smoke rose from the city, the Benjamites turned and saw the whole city going up in smoke. Then the Israelites counterattacked, and the Benjamites were terrified because they realized that disaster had come on them. So they fled before the Israelites in the direction of the wilderness, but they could not escape the battle. And the Israelites who came out of the towns cut them down there. And they surrounded the Benjamites, chased them, and easily overran them in the vicinity of Gibeah on the east. 18,000 Benjamites fell. This is besides the other 25,000. All of them valiant fighters. As they turned and fled toward the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon, the Israelites cut down 5,000 men along the roads. They kept pressing after the Benjamites as far as Gidom and struck down 2,000 more. Man, they killed a lot of them. A lot of them. In fact, it looks like 600 of them fled, and then the Israelites went to the towns, killed everyone in the towns, including the animals. They like to do that. It's like, what did the animals ever do in all this? It's like, why does Yahweh always have to include the animals? It's like, you kill our animals too. Like, that's just like gross. I mean, it's all gross, but you know what I mean? It's just, ugh. Okay, but they've gotten let's see here. Okay. Now we're in Judges 21. Okay, this is the last chapter of Judges, and then Judges is done. See, they've done all this, right? They've done all this, and they've made an oath that not one single Israelite will give a daughter in marriage to a Benjamite. They made an oath at Mizpah to Yahweh. But then that left a problem, because they literally killed all the Benjamites, except for maybe 600 of them. They killed most of them. So they were like, well, wait a minute. How will the Benjamites have wives then? How will they ever, their whole tribe will die out. Their whole line will die out. They love genetics. Okay, let me start at verse 6. I'm in Judges 21, verse 6. Now the Israelites grieved for the tribe of Benjamin, their fellow Israelites. Today, one tribe is cut off from Israel, they said. How can we provide wives for those who are left, since we have taken an oath by the Lord not to give them any of our daughters in marriage? Then they asked which one of the tribes of Israel failed to assemble before the Lord at Mizpah. They discovered that no one from Jabesh Gilead had come to the camp for the assembly. For when they counted the people, they found that none of the people of Jabesh Gilead were there. So, of course, the assembly sent 12,000 fighting men with instructions to go to Jabesh Gilead and put to the sword those living there, including the women and the children. Of course, this is how all these things go. It's like, what the hell? Why? You've always got to kill the innocent people. Always. Always. And this is the God that everyone in church worships. I don't understand. This is the God of the three monotheistic faiths of the world. They think is beyond reproach. This is who they're all worshiping. It's sick. It's sick. And then once again, here we go. Here we go. Just like in Judges 11. Numbers 31, just like in Numbers 31. Here is their instructions. This is what you are to do, they said. Kill every male and every woman who is not a virgin. Here we go again. We will add this to our growing list of child sex trafficking going on in the Bible. Take note, Judges 21, verse 11 to 12. This is what you are to do, they said. Kill every man and every woman who is not a virgin. They found among the people living in Jabesh Gilead 400 young women who had never slept with a man, and they took them to the camp at Shiloh in Canaan. So, and remember, I can't stress this enough. This is back in the day where women would get married as soon as they started their periods. They would get married. So these girls were they were prepubescent girls. Okay? very young. Here we are again. So then they send word to the Benjamites. Of course. So the Benjamites returned at that time and were given these girls, not women, these girls of Jabesh Gilead who had been spared. But there were not enough for all of them. There was 400 of the girls and 200 Benjamites. So there's 200 Benjamites who don't have a little girl to exploit. So they were all upset about that. The people grieved for Benjamin because the Lord had made a gap in the tribes of Israel. And the elders of the assembly said, with the women of Benjamin destroyed, how shall we provide wives for the men who are left? The Benjamite survivors must have heirs, they said, so that a tribe of Israel will not be wiped out. And we can't give them our daughters since we have, made an oath, and we would be cursed if we did. So they had an idea. This was their clever idea, okay? Okay, this is their clever idea. Judges 21, verse 19. But look, there is the annual festival of the Lord in Shiloh, which lies north of Bethel, east of the road that goes from Bethel to Shechem, and south of the Lebanon. So they instructed the Benjamites, okay, go hide and wait in the vineyards, right? Tee-hee. Go hide in the vineyards. And while we're all dancing and having our party, then while the little girls are dancing, you just run up on the dance floor and snatch these girls and kidnap them. They were basically giving them permission to kidnap some of their daughters. So that's basically what they did. And listen, here we are, verse 22. Listen, now when their fathers or brothers complain that this has happened, that their daughters and sisters are being kidnapped by the Benjamites, we will say to them, do us the favor of helping them. We didn't get them wives during the war. You will not be guilty of breaking your oath because you didn't technically give them. They were taken. And so that's what they did. That's what they did during their festival. The Benjamites basically, it was like fair game. They were just snatching little girls off the dance floor. Can you imagine? Like, what? I hope they make a cartoon version of this story of the Bible. I know they have a cartoon version for all the fluffy stories, but I'd like to see the one that portrays this certain situation. Now, that's the end of the book of Judges. So we are really at the point now where not only have they been, really MK Ultra'd, they're not even, trying to do the moral and right thing anymore. Like, before, back when Moses was alive, they would speak up and get killed, but they would at least try to do the right thing. Like, when the Levites tried to defend the rest of the Israelites, saying that they weren't any holier than the rest, and then they all got swallowed by the earth. You know what I mean? That's all over now. That's all over. They're programmed and ready to just do these evil things in the name of the Lord, in the name of Yahweh, and think that they're morally superior, I guess. I don't know. It's like this sense of entitlement that Yahweh bestowed upon them. It's almost like Moses and Joshua and all that. That was like boot camp for them. And it's like now they're ready to terrorize the rest of the world. I mean, just look how entitled Samson acted. He acted so entitled. He, you know what I mean, goes to the woman he wants to marry's home, tries to trick her family, just to recap, tries to trick her family into losing this riddle so he can take resources from them along with their daughter. And then when that backfires and he looks like a fool, he just gives her to someone, just gives her away and disgraces her. And then when he, gets lonely like a month later and decides he's not mad at her, tries to go back to sleep with her to disgrace her some more, her father stands up for her. That pisses him off to the point where he sets a bunch of foxes on fire to destroy their fields and all this stuff. Kills 1,000 of them. Just absolutely terrorizing them. Just the entitlement. It's unreal. And then, with Micah's idols. What's up with that? It seems like that this story is up until the last story, it was mainly like the tribe of Danite. I don't know what they had going on, but sheesh. They take advantage of Micah's hospitality. Then they go and take advantage of the people of Laish's hospitality. Then they steal all of Micah's stuff. Then they go to Laish and burn it down and take it for themselves. After all, just the entitlement. Just the absolute entitlement. That's what Yahweh turned them into. And it's sad. It's sad. It's like... And like... It has to be because Yahweh felt intimidated by these Middle Eastern people. I can't help but feel this way. Like, he wouldn't be doing all this if he wasn't intimidated by them, like trying to enslave them. I mean, think about it, and I can see why. They were the ones who came up with a writing system, came up with the wheel. Even though he had set it all up for them to fail, they were still thriving and coming up with all these things. So, and he didn't like it. He couldn't stand it. He couldn't stand it. So then he singled out Abraham. I know I'm going way too far back now. He singled out Abraham, and this was his plan the whole time, was to have to MK Ultra a whole group of people. I mean, that is, if any of this is to be believed. But like I said, I mean, it's sad. It's sad. Yeah, and Book of Judges was not for the faint of heart. And then what is up with the Levite? Taking this girl, right, from her family, then just, like, sticking her outside for these men to gang rape her and kill her. And then he cuts her up into 12 pieces? Like, what the hell? You want to talk about entitlement? Anyways, okay, well, that's it for today. I know I went, like, way over the time I usually go. But, like, I wanted to finish up the Book of Judges because, yeah, we will get into Ruth. And on Wednesday, possibly Wednesday. I'm going to try to come back on Wednesday. If not, definitely next Sunday. For sure. But yeah, so just, yeah, wow. So then, yeah, next time we'll get into Ruth. And then we'll get into the 1 Samuel. Ruth is kind of a short book. Shouldn't take that long to get through Ruth. And then we'll begin with 1 Samuel. Yep. Starting to get into the era of the kings, of the first kings of Israel. So that'll be interesting. Yeah, it's just sad. And especially when I think about, like, Gaza now, and it's just like, and it's funny, it's because the Israelites, we've all been taught our whole lives that, like, they're the most targeted group of people, this and that and the other. I'm starting to think it's the people in Palestine, like, the people descended from, like, the Canaanites and the Israelites. Let's be real, the people in modern day Palestine probably have more Israeli heritage than the Israelis do, but I don't know, that's just my opinion. But, like, it's just sad. These people have been put through the ringer, and I would love to see them have an era of peace and prosperity. They deserve it. Everyone in the Middle East deserves it. They deserve to be at peace for once. They really do. But that's my opinion. I hope you all have a good Sunday, and, you know, just think about this. Like, it's not because your parents lied to you about any of this. They were deceived too. Like, when they teach you these Bible stories and stuff, they were programmed by their parents, and they were programmed by their parents before them. This has been going on a long time. And don't blame anybody for this. You know what I mean? We just need to get through this together, understand the lies we've been told, and try to make others aware of this, because I really believe that they're going to use religion as, like, the butterfly net to catch the people who, like, for example, like, if people don't buy into their agenda, I feel like religion is almost like that thing that they're going to use to catch, like, the strays, because a lot of people are turning to religion now that they're starting to wake up, and it's unfortunate, because religion is just another trap. It's another trap. But you start talking about things like that, and you know, they suppress your videos and your content, so it's like only the religious stuff goes out. It's crazy. But I hope you all have a good Sunday. Take care.